All right, joining me once again here on the Matthew Filipowicz Show is my good friend Sarah Jaffe. Sarah is an independent journalist whose work has been seen in Truth Out, In These Times, Jacobin, The Nation, Alternet, and many more. She is the co-host of Dissent Magazine's Belabored podcast, all of which and more you can find at adifferentclass.com. You can also follow her on Twitter at Sarah L. Jaffe. Sarah, thank you so much for being on the show again.
Thank you for having me again.
All right, so Sarah, you recently wrote a really interesting article at In These Times about the disturbing trend of manufacturing jobs going to temp workers. Why don't you tell us all about it?
Oh, God, where do I start? That's sort of a big subject. So what happened, actually, and this may be the best place to start, is I got an email from a friend of mine who lives in Georgia who is an organizer who said, hey, I got this guy who works at this place that I'm organizing who also works at Glock. And Glock, where they make the guns, yes, which is manufactured just outside of Atlanta. And this guy is a temp, and he's been there for, I don't actually remember how long. And he makes $10 an hour, which is a fact that I was able to at least verify. The company would not return my phone calls, but I did find their ads for skilled manufacturing workers who have to be able to work 3 possible flexible shifts because apparently they need to make guns around the clock. And they start at $10 an hour for people who need to have skills on various machines. I mean, this is not, it sort of puts to lie to this whole story that the people who are making low wages in this country are people who just don't have the skills to get those better jobs. It's actually that those better jobs are now paying $10 an hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you also, there's a dog in the background.
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, doggy. But so you also talk to, in the article, a woman who actually works at a Nissan power plant, auto plant in Tennessee. Tell us about her. Betty McRae's her name.
So there's a few different people that I spoke to after we sort of decided to broaden this story from Glock to, oh my God, this is happening everywhere. And so, Nissan, which is now building cars across the South, there's a plant in Tennessee and there's a plant in Canton, Mississippi, is also using these permatemps to do its, it's the regular assembly line manufacturing work. In some cases, one of the people that I spoke to got a promotion to a position that he had to sort of, try out for that took more skill, still remains a temp. So these are, once again, right, the jobs that we think of as being the good jobs, right? Like auto worker is sort of the quintessential American mythological middle-class job. Well, they're just not really anymore.
Yeah, and it's interesting, because let's actually go into, because you actually looked into the company that is now, specifically when it comes to Nissan, the company that's staffing this, and their background is pretty interesting too. They're called Kelly Girls Service. So tell us a little about that.
Well, so I read this wonderful book sometime last year called The Temp Economy by Erin Hatton, who is a professor of sociology in Buffalo, and she really studied the way the temp industry started out as providing white-collar women to offices, and they really sold it as like these are sort of temporary jobs for women who don't need full-time jobs because, of course, those women have husbands or fathers or some male breadwinner who is taking care of them. And so if they need to work at all, they just, want to make a little pocket money. So it doesn't really matter if we pay them very little. And it doesn't really matter if they don't have any security or health benefits or anything else because they're women, so why would they need those? And so Kelly
women
Girl
don't need
Services,
any of that. Women don't need any of that stuff.
Right, exactly.
Come on.
And so, so Kelly Services started in, I think, 1946. The date is in the article. And so through the 50s and 60s, they really were, they prided themselves on providing these girls. And many other companies had the same MO. And then somewhere in the 70s and then really stepping it up in the 80s and 90s, they started to promote the fact that they had these big strapping men. And in the print edition of the magazine, we have a copy of one of these ads about, these strapping men that they've got now. We can't call ourselves Kelly Girl Service anymore because now we've got boys. And they slowly but surely sort of took on these bastions of union labor, right? And somewhere in there, the NLRB decided that they were allowed to use temps to, or that bosses were allowed to use temps to bust unions, and then it's just been sort of open season since then. So that's sort of the history of the temp industry, is now they're really everywhere. And one of the places that they really, really are is in manufacturing.